3 years ago, while still living with my parents, we moved into a new house at the end of 2019 just before the lockdown began. After settling in, strange occurrences began to unfold. One evening around 7 p.m., my mom and I were returning home when she noticed a car had been following us for a few minutes. To ensure it wasn't just our imagination, we slowed down and circled a roundabout twice, but the car sped up and cut us off on the normally quiet road leading to our house. Initially, we brushed it off as being in the wrong place at the wrong time. However, around 2 months into the lockdown, in May, another unsettling incident occurred. It was around 3 a.m. when my sister, downstairs in our living room, which is surrounded by doors and windows, noticed one of the doors was slightly ajar. Assuming it was left open accidentally and being moved by the wind, she didn't think much of it at first. The door was left open, but when she tried to push it shut and lock it, she felt resistance pushing against it, as if someone was trying to open it. She screamed as loudly as she could and ran upstairs to my parents. They went to the backyard to check if anyone was there, but they didn't see anyone. We decided to chalk it up as a one-time incident, but my mom remained worried. She started staying in the living room at night, just in case. For the next few weeks, nothing new occurred. She often asked me to stay with her as a witness, in case anything happened. One night around 1 a.m., we were lying on the couch in the dark because I had a headache. My mom was scrolling through her phone when suddenly a blinding light shone into our living room. It scared me so much that I froze. My parents rushed to the backyard again, but found nothing. A few minutes later, more lights and strange noises appeared on the surveillance camera. We saw unfamiliar people at our gate, staring directly into our house. Since their presence wasn't illegal, we couldn't take action. This continued for months, driving my family insane. The following summer, while cleaning the backyard, we discovered a large hole in the bushes, big enough for someone to sneak through. We were uncertain about what to do, but it confirmed that someone had been entering our property. Our property remained quiet thereafter, leaving us to speculate whether they knew we were onto them. Despite this, we still have no clue about their identities, motives, or any potential intentions. When I was around 14 or 15, I often stayed at my cousin Skylar's house. She was married to Josh, both in their 20s. One summer week went smoothly at their rapidly growing neighborhood filled with similar-looking houses and cul-de-sacs. Near the incomplete constructions at the neighborhood's edge, a detail that becomes significant later, Skylar retired early one night, leaving Josh and me to indulge in our favorite movies. We stayed up late watching Would You Rather and The Ridiculous 6 Feet, though the latter was disappointing. Josh usually stepped out to the patio for a smoke, often taking his dog for a late-night walk. As I dozed off on one of their couches against the living room wall, a lone window offered a view into the backyard. It was then that Banjo, their restless dog, began barking intermittently between the playroom and kitchen. I initially thought Banjo was just upset, so I tried to ignore it and go back to sleep. However, he suddenly fell silent. Moments later, he woke me again by growling fiercely at the window beside the couch where I lay. Despite his agitation, I hesitated to get up and fell asleep once more. Suddenly, Banjo leaped onto my stomach and resumed barking loudly. What truly startled me awake, though, was a bright light shining directly into my face from outside the window. Initially confused rather than scared, my eyes struggling to adjust, I realized it was a flashlight. As it moved upward, I saw a man's face. It looked eerily similar to Josh's, almost like they were twins. He crouched close to the glass, and at the sight of him, I jumped. I don't recall if I screamed, but the man began laughing, the sound audible through the window. Half asleep and uneasy, I assumed it was Josh trying to scare me during his smoke break. Still feeling unsettled, I decided to sleep on the floor in the upstairs hallway. I didn't tell Skylar about the incident because she dislikes being disturbed while sleeping, and I still suspected it was Josh playing a prank rather than a stranger inspecting the house. The following afternoon, when I finally mentioned it to them, they didn't take it seriously. They asked if I was certain it wasn't a dream. though they did acknowledge Banjo's frantic barking. I ventured outside to check near the window for any signs of the intruder, and my stomach turned when I saw the tall grass flattened, as if someone had been kneeling there. I didn't want to contemplate how long the man might have been there, judging by the still pressed grass. Banjo must have been monitoring the area for some time, and it was the flashlight that finally roused me. Perhaps it was just some homeless person bored and curious, but if my life were a scary movie back then, I would have been in serious trouble. I'm a 25-year-old woman, and this incident occurred last summer, but it still makes me nervous to recall. One day, after visiting a thrift store with my boyfriend, I suggested we pick up sushi from a nearby grocery store for dinner. He was tired from night shifts and opted to head home while I went to the store alone. We live in a bustling part of the city near the mall, library, city hall, restaurants, and big stores, so I felt safe going by myself. Looking back, I wish I hadn't. As we parted ways, I walked through the grocery store parking lot when a large man, about 6'5", and possibly in his early to mid-40s, approached me with an unnervingly wide smile and intense eyes. He remarked, "Wow, you're stunning." I thanked him and tried to walk away, but he persisted, saying, "I've never seen anyone as beautiful as you before." Instantly, fear gripped me. I glanced back, hoping to see my boyfriend, but he was already gone. Some might think it an overreaction to feel scared immediately, but years of consuming true crime and horror stories had made me cautious. Coupled with my extreme social anxiety and lack of self-defense skills as a small woman, I always tread carefully. His eyes and smile reminded me of a more sinister version of Art the Clown from Terrifies, minus the clown costume and silence. The man struck up a conversation, asking for my name and age. I gave him a made-up name and claimed I was 19. "That's good," he replied. "It means you're a real woman now." Looking around, I hoped someone else was nearby, but the area was deserted. I felt cornered. Later, my boyfriend suggested I should have lied about my age to make the man lose interest. Given the unsettling vibes from him, I doubted he would have backed off even if I had claimed to be younger. He then held out his phone, insisting on getting my number. I declined, mentioning my boyfriend. "So what?" he persisted. "I just want to talk to you." I reiterated that I had a boyfriend, but his smile remained unnervingly persistent, as if he didn't grasp or didn't care about my disinterest. With that same unsettling smile, he edged closer and said, "So you're not interested in cheating on your boyfriend?" I was taken aback. Stepping back, I looked around for help among the people coming and going from the grocery store. When I declined again, his smile abruptly disappeared. He placed a hand on my back and in a cold, firm tone said, "Come on, I have a nice car. Let me take you to a restaurant." His demeanor shifted so suddenly, like a scene from a thriller, that fear gripped me. In a panic, I managed to move away and stammered, "Sorry, I have to go get my groceries." I noticed people staring. His unsettling smile returned as he quietly said, "All right, see you around." After practically rushing into the grocery store, feeling a wave of relief, I glanced back, hoping to see him getting into his car. Instead, I saw the man standing in the middle of the parking lot, staring at me. Inside the store, I tried calling my boyfriend, but it went to voicemail. I figured he might be asleep. I was terrified at the thought of walking back home. I calmed down somewhat inside the store, thinking the man had probably left. However, I remained very alert on the walk home. It was growing dark, but I reassured myself that walking fast and staying vigilant would keep me safe. As I approached the crosswalk to my street, I heard a car pull up beside me, and then a familiar voice called out. My heart sank. I glanced over to see the man with a creepy, malicious grin on his face, leaning out of his car window as if he wanted to grab me. He tauntingly asked, "So, where's your boyfriend?" and laughed loudly. Recalling what I'd read in true crime and horror stories, I decided it was safest not to respond. My mind raced, but I focused on staying calm. I couldn't let him follow me home, and turning back towards the mall or stores might have signaled fear. Luckily, My neighborhood's recreation center was next to my building. Ignoring him, I casually crossed the street, walking faster as I headed towards the center. I dared not look back, afraid I'd see him chasing me with that creepy grin. Reaching the recreation center safely, I finally glanced behind me. I half expected him to have followed me inside or waited in his car. Instead, he quickly drove off in the opposite direction of my house. I felt immense relief and immediately called my boyfriend, who woke up when he answered. I was on the verge of tears, but managed to control myself as I recounted everything that had happened. He rushed to the recreation center, and after helping me calm down, we walked. When I got home, my boyfriend asked if I had noted down the man's license plate number, and I felt foolish. It had been too dark and I was too frightened for my own safety to even think about that. At least I called the police and described the man and his car to them. They said they would do what they could, but I haven't received any updates from them since. I haven't seen that man again in person, but his smile haunts my dreams, filling my nights with fear. Remembering the cruel, intense stare he gave me from his car makes me realize how pleased he seemed to find me alone and vulnerable. It's made me question the safety of my city, which I had always believed to be secure. At the same time, I'm grateful he never discovered where I live. But he could still be out there, potentially targeting other women like he tried to do with me that night. For my sake and the safety of all women in my city, I hope I never have to discover. This all began a few days ago, on July 5th, when I received a call from FedEx around 10 p.m. They asked for my name and address, which they should have had on file. I didn't think much of it at the time, assuming it might be related to a lost package. But my concerns grew when I received another call, this time informing me they couldn't locate my unit number and asking me to meet them at the nearby roundabout. My dad found this suspicious and drove around the area searching for these people. After 4 laps, he spotted a gray SUV tucked away in a corner. Confronting him, they claimed not to be the delivery personnel, and by the time my dad circled back for a final check, the SUV had vanished. The following day, July 6th, around 11 p.m., our doorbell rang. I went downstairs to find 2 unfamiliar individuals, both appearing around 20 years old, who knew my name and were calling out to me. This unnerved me deeply as I had never seen him before. Feeling unsafe, I avoided approaching them. However, they persisted in returning. We contacted the authorities, and the police advised me to reach out again if anything similar happened. The following day, July 7th, passed quietly without any incidents, so we assumed it was over and carried on with our day. July 8th was similarly uneventful until around 11 p.m. when my security camera captured someone wearing a mask taking photos or videos of my house. We immediately dialed 911 and reported this odd behavior. The police arrived promptly, but the individuals had already fled by then. Thinking the ordeal was behind us, we were wrong. Around 3 a.m. that same day, I was in the living room when I heard a noise outside on my balcony. Initially dismissing it, I heard it again and decided to investigate. To my horror, I came face to face with the intruder. I screamed for help, and my family rushed down, but the intruders managed to escape once more. Today is July 9th, and I haven't slept due to fear. How did they know my name, and what do they want from me? When I was 17 years old, my bedroom had a window facing our backyard, which was fenced and bordered by woods and a pond. The view never frightened me. In fact, I liked leaving the blinds open so the natural morning light could gently wake me up each day. Then one night, I was awake late, browsing on my phone with my dog beside me in bed. Around 2 a.m., my dog suddenly jumped up and started barking at the window. Initially, I thought he was reacting to his own reflection, so I told him to quiet down. But then I noticed he was fixated on the left side of the window, and his reflection was on the right. The lamp on my nightstand was still on, so I couldn't see outside. All I could see was the reflection of my bedroom. I didn't want to reveal my fear if someone or something was outside, so I pretended to yawn, set my phone down, and turned off the lamp. Suddenly, a pair of human eyes appeared from the left side of the window. Since I often get thirsty at night, I had an empty water bottle on my nightstand. I turned the lamp back on and acted like I was getting water. Then, I went to my parents' room and told them everything. My dad reassured me, mentioning the motion-activated lights outside that hadn't turned on, indicating nothing was out there. Returning to my room, I convinced myself I was imagining things. I closed the blinds, turned off the lamp, and went to sleep. The next morning, while taking my dog out, I checked under my window and noticed the disturbed pine needles. I tried to dismiss it, reminding myself about the lights outside. That reassured me until later that day when Dad discovered the bulbs had burned out. Since then, I always keep my blinds closed and my lamp off when I sleep. I don't want to take any chances of being seen by anything outside.